Good evening, friends. Tonight we return to the quiet hills of Limgrave, to the first lonely roads walked by the Tarnished beneath the fading light of the Erdtree. The beginning of Elden Ring is often remembered as a moment of adventure, a vast world opening beneath golden skies, but beneath that beauty there is also grief. Ruined churches scattered across forgotten fields, soldiers endlessly guarding kingdoms already lost, ancient roads leading nowhere except deeper into memory and decay. And somewhere beyond the storm, a weary figure waits beneath the gates of Stormvale. Tonight we'll wander slowly through that first night in Limgrave together, through its silence, its ruins, its fading grace, and the quiet tragedy hidden beneath one of From Software's most beautiful worlds. So dim the lights, settle in, and let the winds of Limgrave carry us gently into the dark. There is a strange silence in Limgrave, not the silence of peace, not the silence of safety, but the silence left after something ancient has already broken, and the world simply continues living beneath the weight of it. The wind still moves through the trees, the ocean still breathes against the cliffs below. Torchlight still flickers beyond ruined roads where soldiers wander without purpose. And above it all, the Erdtree glows, distant, immense, beautiful enough to almost make someone forget what became of the world beneath the light. Almost. Tonight we wander through Limgrave together, not as conquerors, not as heroes, but as strangers walking in a land that no longer remembers how to heal. Perhaps that is what the Tarnished truly are. Not saviors, only witnesses. Witnesses to the slow fading of an age that should have ended long ago. The first thing the Tarnished sees is death. Not battle, not triumph, not glory. Only stillness. A chapel, buried beneath shadow. Candles trembling softly against stone. Long, dead fingers curled around forgotten weapons. The air itself feels cold, as though this place has remained untouched for centuries, hidden somewhere between memory and abandonment. And in many ways it has. Before the Tarnished ever steps into Limgrave, they awaken in a crypt of failure. Others came before them, others sought grace, others dreamed of becoming Elden Lord, and all of them were swallowed by the same long silence. The lands between are filled with ruins, but the first ruin we ever encounter is hope itself. There is no celebration when grace returns to the Tarnished, no welcoming chorus, no kingdom waiting for its lost warriors to come home. Only a distant guidance flickering quietly in the dark. Thin strands of gold stretching forward like fading memories. Grace does not feel triumphant, it feels tired, as though even the light itself is struggling to continue. When the Tarnished first pushes open the heavy doors leading outside, Limgrave reveals itself slowly. Not all at once. From Software worlds rarely do. The cliffs rise beneath pale daylight. Grass bends beneath the wind. Birdsong drifts somewhere in the distance, and for a brief moment, the world almost appears gentle. This is one of the great illusions of Limgrave. Its beauty softens the horror hidden beneath it. Unlike Lordran, unlike Yarnum, unlike the nightmare kingdoms of older ages, Limgrave does not immediately suffocate the player beneath ruin. Instead, it invites them forward quietly. The forests are green, the skies are open. Golden light pours across the hills, and yet beneath this beauty, everything is already collapsing. The soldiers patrol empty roads, the churches stand shattered. The dead are nailed to crosses beside the path. Even the wandering nobles seem barely alive, dragging themselves endlessly through fields that no longer belong to anyone. Limgrave is not flourishing. It is decaying gracefully, and somehow it seems even sadder. The first true figure the Tarnished encounters is not a king, not a warrior, not a god, but a man, waiting beside the ruined stone. White Mask Vare, a smiling stranger standing quietly among the dying grass. There is something unsettling about him immediately, not because he threatens violence, but because he speaks with the calm certainty of someone who already understands the cruelty of this world. He calls the Tarnished maidenless. Players often remember the line as humorous now, but beneath the joke, there is genuine emptiness. To be maidenless is not to simply travel alone. It means lacking guidance, purpose, connection. The Tarnished enters Limgrave already abandoned, and Vare knows it. His amusement feels less like mockery and more like recognition, because in the lands between, loneliness is ordinary. Everyone here has already lost something. Then, in the distance, the rider appears, gold armor glimmering beneath sunlight, horse hooves crushing the earth with slow certainty. The Tree Sentinel, one of Elden Ring's most important early encounters. Not because players are expected to defeat him immediately, but because he teaches something essential about this world. The Tarnished is not powerful. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. The Tree Sentinel only exists to humble ambition before it can fully awaken. Many players rush toward him instinctively. After all, games often teach us that obstacles are meant to be overcome immediately. But Limgrave is different. The lands between are different. This world does not bend itself around the player's readiness. The Tree Sentinel patrols the ruined church, not as challenge, waiting politely for its turn, but as a remnant of a broken order still carrying out its purpose long after meaning has vanished. He guards nothing, protects no thriving kingdom, serves no future. And yet he continues. Like so many beings in the land between, he simply cannot stop. There is tragedy hidden inside repetition. The soldiers continue marching, the nobles continue wandering, the guardians continue defending dead roads. Even the Erdtree itself continues shining over a fractured world that no longer understands the order it once represented. Everything continues moving, nothing remembers how to end. Eventually, the Tarnished reach the Church of Ele, one of the quietest places in Limgrave, a small ruin illuminated by soft firelight. Here, for the first time, the world briefly feels human again. Merchant Kale waits beside the flame, calm, gentle, unconcerned with grandeur. In another age, perhaps, churches like this were sacred places filled with prayer and life. Now only fragments remain. Broken walls, faded stone, ash drifting through open air, and one lonely merchant playing music beneath the ruin of faith. There is something deeply important about Kale's presence. He does not speak like kings or prophets. He does not promise destiny. He simply exists. And in the world of Elden Ring, survival itself has become sacred. The merchants of the lands between are often overlooked, but they carry a quiet sorrow with them. Many were hunted, scattered, driven underground beneath the earth. Their music became one of the last surviving echoes of an ordinary humanity. Not ambition, not conquest, not divine order. Just memory. Songs played softly beside dying firelight, as if someone, somewhere, still wishes to remember what the world sounded like before everything collapsed. Night eventually falls over Limgrave, and the world changes. The forests darken. Fog settles over the hills. Torchlight flickers in distant camps. Creatures begin stirring beneath shadow. The nighttime in Elden Ring feels strangely intimate. Not comforting, but quiet. As though the world itself becomes more honest after sunset. During daylight, the Erdtree dominates the horizon. Its brilliance is impossible to ignore. But at night, darkness reclaims the land, and for brief moments, the illusions of divine perfection begin to fade. The Tarnished rides forward beneath moonlight, past wandering soldiers, past ruined wagons overturned beside the road. past wolves feeding quietly among the trees. Everywhere, remnants of conflict remain, scattered across the earth. Broken swords, collapsed camps, forgotten graves. The shattering did not simply destroy kingdoms, it exhausted the world itself. This is important to understand. The lands between are not experiencing an active apocalypse. The apocalypse has already happened. What remains now is an aftermath. Long decay, lingering grief. A civilization trapped in the slow echo of its own collapse. And perhaps that is why Limgrave feels so haunting. Not because death is approaching, but because death arrived long ago, and nobody truly survived it. In the distance, Stormvale Castle waits against the horizon. Massive walls rising above cliffs and storms. At first glance, it appears majestic, ancient, unbreakable. But Stormvale is already rotting from within. Like nearly every kingdom in Elden Ring, it survives only through denial. Its lord clings desperately to power, its defenders continue fighting wars already lost. Its stones crumble slowly beneath endless wind. Stormvale does not represent strength, it represents fear. The fear of irrelevance, the fear of weakness, the fear of being forgotten by history. And somewhere inside those walls, Godric the Grafted awaits. A ruler so terrified of inadequacy that he tears strength from the bodies of others. Not out of cruelty alone, but out of panic. Fear changes people in the lands between. It twists devotion into fanaticism, faith into violence, ambition into monstrosity. Perhaps that is the true sickness spreading beneath the Erdtree. Not death, fear of death, fear of fading, fear of becoming insignificant beneath eternity. As the Tarnished continues wandering through Limgrave, Grace occasionally points forward once more. Thin, golden lines stretching towards Stormvale, towards purpose, toward confrontation. Yet there is something strangely melancholy about Grace itself. It does not command, it barely even guides. It flickers weakly, as though uncertain whether the Tarnished can truly change anything at all. And perhaps Grace remembers what happened to those who came before. The countless Tarnished who failed, the warriors consumed by ambition, the champions who lost themselves pursuing power. The lands between are filled with people who once believed they could repair the world. Almost none of them survived with their humanity intact. Eventually the road narrows, storm clouds gather overhead, the air grows colder. And there, waiting beneath the broken gate of Stormvale, stands Margit, the Fell Omen, one of the most important characters in Elden Ring. Though players do not understand why, at first glance Margit appears monstrous. Twisted limbs, ragged robes, a voice heavy with contempt. He descends like judgment itself, and his words are unforgettable. Foul Tarnished, in search of the Elden Ring. There is exhaustion in his voice. Not rage, not hatred. Exhaustion. As though he has spoken these words countless times before. As though he has watched endless Tarnished march towards the same doomed ambition. Margit does not greet the player like an enemy meeting a rival. He greets them like a weary guardian, witnessing another tragedy preparing to repeat itself. This is what makes Margit such a remarkable first major boss. He's not merely testing strength, he's testing resolve, worthiness, perhaps even mercy. Because Margit understands something the Tarnished does not yet realize. The pursuit of the Elden Ring destroys people. Again and again, the desire for order, power, and transcendence has shattered everyone who reaches for it. And still, the Tarnished continue coming, drawn by grace, by hope, drawn by the terrible human instinct to believe that perhaps this time things will be different. The battle itself feels almost mythological. Rain falls softly across broken stone. Golden daggers flash through darkness. Staff strikes echo beneath the storm. Margit moves not like a beast, but like a man carrying unbearable burden. Every attack feels disciplined, controlled, measured. There's an anger beneath his blows, and perhaps that restraint matters most of all. Because Margit could easily despise the Tarnished, yet his words often sound closer to warning than hatred. Put these foolish ambitions to rest. It is one of the defining lines of Elden Ring, because it reveals the central tragedy of the world. Ambition itself became poison. The demigods destroyed the lands between, pursuing power. Wars consumed entire kingdoms. Families shattered, faith collapsed. And still, ambition survives. Still, the Tarnished rises. Still, another warrior approached the gate, believing they might succeed where all others failed. Margit sees the cycle continuing, and he is tired of watching it repeat. There's another sadness hidden inside Margit, one players only fully understand later. Because Margit is not truly Margit. He is Morgott, the last king of Leyndell. A child born cursed beneath the Golden Order he would later defend more loyally than anyone else. An omen, shunned from birth, hidden beneath the capital, rejected by the very society he chose to protect. And yet despite everything, despite humiliation, despite isolation, despite cruelty, Morgott still loves the Erdtree, still defends the Golden Order, still fights to preserve the kingdom even as it abandons him. There is something profoundly tragic about that devotion, because Margit is not defending a world that loves him back. He is defending memory, tradition, meaning. Perhaps he fears that if the Erdtree falls, then all suffering endured in its name becomes meaningless. And so he continues fighting, not because victory is possible, but because letting go would destroy the final purpose left in his life. The pattern repeats constantly throughout Elden Ring. Characters cling to broken systems because those systems are all they have left. The Golden Order failed countless people, yet many still worship it. The demigods destroyed the realm, yet armies still serve them. The world is visibly collapsing, yet everyone continues behaving as though restoration remains possible. It is difficult to let old worlds die, even when they are already gone. As Margit falls, silence returns once more. The rain softens, Stormveil looms ahead, and for a brief moment, the Tarnished simply stands alone beneath the dark, victorious. Yet the victory feels strangely hollow, because nothing in Limgrave truly changes. The dead remain dead, the ruins remain broken, the Erdtree still glows over a wounded world, and somewhere, deep within the lands between, greater horrors continue waiting patiently. There's another reason Elden Ring feels so melancholic. Progress rarely feels triumphant. Defeating powerful enemies does not heal the world. It merely allows the Tarnished to travel deeper into its suffering. But perhaps there's still meaning in the journey itself. Perhaps that is why grace truly seeks. Not perfection, not conquest, only movement. A reason to continue wandering forward through darkness, even knowing the cycle may truly never end. There is one final detail about Limgrave that often goes unnoticed. Despite all its sorrow, it remains beautiful. The moonlight across the hills, the distant ocean winds, the golden leaves drifting from the Erdtree, the soft music beside the forgotten ruins. From Software could have made the opening region purely hostile. Instead, they filled it with quiet gentleness, and maybe that gentleness matters, because the world of Elden Ring is not empty of beauty. It is simply unable to protect beauty from time. Everything fades eventually. Kingdoms, heroes, faith, even memory itself. Yet for brief moments, the world still offers something fragile and worth witnessing. A fire beside ruined stone, music drifting through darkness. A lonely rider crossing silent hills beneath the stars. Perhaps that is enough. Perhaps it always was. The Tarnished arrived in Limgrave searching for purpose, but purpose is difficult to find in a world already buried beneath centuries of grief. Still, the road continues forward. Stormvale waits, the demigods wait, the Erdtree waits. And somewhere far beyond the horizon, the fate of the lands between continues slowly unfolding beneath distant golden light. But tonight we remain here, on the first night in Limgrave, where the grass bends beneath cold wind, where ruins sleep beneath moonlight, where exhausted guardians still defend forgotten roads, and where one wandering Tarnished begins walking quietly towards the end of an age. And throughout all of Limgrave, Grace continues guiding the Tarnished forward, soft trails of golden light stretching quietly across broken roads and dying fields. At first, Grace appears comforting, almost holy, a divine hand reaching gently through the darkness. But the longer one wanders through the lands between, the stranger Grace begins to feel. Because Grace does not guide the Tarnished towards peace, it guides them towards conflict, towards Stormvale, toward the demigods, towards suffering. And perhaps that raises an uncomfortable question. What exactly is Grace? Long before the Tarnished returned, Grace belonged to the people of the lands between. It was the blessing of the greater will, a radiant connection to divine order itself. Those touched by the grace lived beneath the light of the Erdtree, protected, chosen, seen. But eventually grace faded from many, including the Tarnished. Cast out from the lands between long ago, the Tarnished became exiles wandering beyond the fog, forgotten by the Erdtree, forgotten by history. And yet now, after the shattering, grace suddenly calls them home once again. Not out of kindness, not necessarily out of love, but out of necessity. Because the Golden Order is failing. The demigods turned against one another, the realm fractured beneath war and ambition. And now the world reaches desperately for someone, anyone, capable of restoring order, even the exiled dead. There is something deeply tragic about this. The Tarnished are not welcomed home as honored heroes. They are summoned like tools, weapons, pulled from the ashes of history, because the old world no longer knows how to save itself. Grace does not erase suffering, it merely gives suffering direction. And perhaps that is why the guidance of grace feels so lonely. The light points forward, but never explains why. Throughout Limgrave, countless ruins lie beneath the Erdtree's glow. Soldiers starve beside broken walls. Nobles wander endlessly through fields. Creatures born from madness and despair roam freely beneath the golden branches. If grace truly represents divine order, then why does the world beneath it suffer so deeply? This is one of Elden Ring's quietest questions, perhaps one of the saddest. Because the Erdtree remains beautiful even now. Its light spills across the hills like eternal sunrise. Its golden leaves drift slowly through the wind. Looking upon it, one almost wants to believe the world can still be healed. But beauty does not always mean goodness, and light does not always mean mercy. Perhaps grace is not compassion at all. Perhaps grace is only continuation, the force that keeps the cycle moving long after the world has grown exhausted. A thing compelling warriors to rise again and again, even when history suggests nothing will truly change. This idea appears everywhere in the lands between. The soldiers continue fighting, the guardians continue guarding, the demigods continue clinging to broken thrones, and the Tarnished continue following grace towards violence, because grace gives them purpose, even if that purpose destroys them. There is a quiet cruelty hidden inside destiny, especially when destiny no longer remembers the people trapped inside it. And still, the Tarnished follows, because what else remains? Without grace, there's only wandering without purpose. Perhaps this is why so many characters in Elden Ring cling desperately to fading systems and dying orders. Not because those systems are just, but because people fear emptiness more than suffering. The unknown is often more terrifying than pain already familiar. As night deepens across Limgrave, the guidance of grace glimmers softly beside ruined roads, thin strands of gold stretching toward, storm-veiled through darkness and rain, almost like distant memories refusing to disappear completely. And beneath the endless light of the Erdtree, the Tarnished rides onward, not fully understanding whether grace is salvation or simply another chain wrapped gently around the soul. If you enjoyed spending this quiet night wandering through Limgrave with me, consider subscribing to the channel for more long-form journeys through the worlds of Elden Ring, Soulsborne lore, and more yet to come. And if tonight's story has helped you relax, rest, or simply escape for a little while, leaving a like truly helps these videos continue reaching other travelers wandering through the dark. Thank you for listening, my friends. Until next time, may grace guide you gently onward.